Hey everyone, we are live again here at DevHub Live with another great episode. I'm your host, Joe from DevHub. We got a lot of fun things going on today. First up, we have a guest, Joey from Backdrop is going to come in and talk about what they're doing and how that benefits developers and how developers can get involved. I'll have co-host Owen again here. We're going to do some new stuff again. I think the segment last week, if you saw us ranking some of the tooling, that was a ton of fun. And so we're going to continue to expand on some of that stuff as well. So let's bring everybody up. Hey, Owen. Hey, Joey. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey guys.
Hey, Owen. All right. So, Joey, why don't you take maybe a couple seconds here and just kind of introduce what Backdrop is and how you're kind of getting involved into the Near ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure to work with the Near team for quite a while now. I'm one of the founders of Backdrop. We actually started out a couple of years ago in sort of late 2021. We've been supporting kind of people building at very, very early stages in crypto from the beginning, but over the past year, we've done that via these programs that we run, which are called Build. And Build, I like to think about it somewhere in between a hackathon and an accelerator. It is like a hackathon in that we work with infrastructure companies like Near, but also I think we have like 50 partners at this point. So covering a pretty good, slice of the frontier tech world. And it's like an accelerator in that we are really focused on helping builders, build something that they're just really passionate about. Could be oftentimes it's a startup, sometimes it's just a side project. We see a lot of people come back from program after program. And so the kind of value prop to builders is that we know that, especially at the early stages, people mostly just want to stay focused on building and shipping. And there are so many opportunities, so many great companies and tech out there for builders, but it is just often overwhelming to find, interface, actually apply, all those kinds of things. So what we do, the kind of hard work that we do is we take care of a lot of that legwork for builders. And so the only thing that we really need from builders is to ship and send in a demo, and then we take care of a lot of the heavy lifting on opening up doors for people. So as an example, obviously we've been working with Near for a while now, and we've been able to launch a bunch of cool projects on Near and help them get grants and things like that. So, and obviously we're really doubling down with the Near team and pumped about Near AI as well. We kind of cover AI and crypto at this point, so it's a really natural fit for us as well.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about like what that process looks like? Are you looking for those who already have like an MVP, or is it early stage? Like where does it all kind of fit in?
Yeah, so we do skew pretty early stage, but within that, we actually, what's kind of interesting about Build is that it will work for people at slightly different parts of what early stage means. So we have some people that are a solo developer, with an idea, and day one of a program is like the first line of code, or maybe it's not even a line of code. Maybe it's like they're actually just figuring out what they're going to build, and that's great. We obviously have ways to support those people, and we also have teams of 5 or typically not much more than that, but that have been shipping for 6 months and they're planning for a big launch, and they want to use our program as a way to kind of align with that launch and then open up a bunch of doors from that. So the way that the program works, it actually works great for both of those 2 examples, and then obviously everything in between as well. So past that, if you're, I don't know, IPO or Series C company, like I think you have different problems that you're trying to solve. So we don't want those people.
Yeah. Is it so? Like, I think maybe it might be helpful. I don't know if you want to show your site as you go talk about some stuff, but like, is it something where I come in and it's more of like a set program, or is it kind of like a rolling thing? I can come in at any time, and you start to help with that. Like, how does that all structured?
Yeah, it's a timely question. I can click through some of the product in a second here, but just yesterday we actually announced that we are moving. We've always kind of been focused on supporting builders whenever they need us, which like timing is kind of everything, I think, in the world of building. Like when you have an idea for something you want to build, like you want to build today. Like no one's like, oh, I'm going to build that thing in 2 months. So we've for a while been running these kind of programs on and then with a break in between, but just yesterday we announced that we are moving to like an always on model. So after this program that we're running ends, the next one will begin immediately after. And we do also allow people to, apply and join at any time during the program. So, that is a change as of yesterday. But what it means for builders, of course, is that you don't need to think about, is now a good time? Can I apply? Can I join now? The answer is always yes. And we still kind of maintain a lot of the benefits of running these programs. And there is that, cycle. So at the end of every month, we'll select projects and, run the kind of process of getting grants and all those kinds of things, so that we still do have that time component, which is of course for accountability and things like that. But it's just easier for builders to think about whether we can actually support them at any given moment, because the answer is now sort of by default yes.
Okay.
What does a program sort of look like from start to finish, and like how much would a participant have to like? How much of their time do they need to spend? Do they have to be full time, or can they do this like part time?
Yeah. So maybe I'm gonna see if I can actually. Well, I'll answer your question first, and then I'll just dive into the product a little bit, which is the short answer is that it is as much or as little as you want. So the only strict requirement that we have is that in order to sort of complete a given program, you have to submit a launch with a short demo video and a couple other, criteria. For us, what a launch means is that you have a product that's live that people can use. So it could be a beta, it could be that they need to get invited, but it's not a marketing landing page, right? So it's like you have a real product. And
Bit like a hackathon submission, then I suppose.
yeah, exactly. So that's in that sense that it's kind of like a hackathon, right? But underneath that, we have I'll just show my screen here. Okay. All right, you should be able to see it. And let's see. Yeah, so hopefully you can see this okay. So I'm actually, this is like what a builder would see. This is today. So we do have these, ways for people to kind of share updates, and some people share updates every single day. So you can see, just over the last couple of days, there's tons of people creating updates on what they've been doing. These things are not required, by the way. So if you're like, what, I'm busy, I don't have time to submit any updates, then you don't have to submit any. You could just submit your launch at the end. Totally all cool. The other things, like, because of so much of the value of the program comes from our partners. You can see the partners that we have. It's a lot. So a lot of what we do is help people, actually discover and kind of connect with these. But let's check out Near. So you can see, so for any given partner, we obviously have, a team of people. We have all these different ways that partners are supporting builders in the program, grants, perks, like what they're looking for. So it's kind of like requests for projects. Of course, for Near right now, there's a bunch around AI resources and things like that. So a lot of the, value in the program comes from the fact that we just have this incredible network of partners like Near, but also dozens of others. And we also work with, at this point, we have like a big network of kind of accelerators and other programs, which we call our boost partners. So we have Horizon in there, for example, but we also have, let's call it, Seed Club. So it's like, if you want to create your project and launch it, and then we are going to intro you to the Seed Club team, and obviously they run their own accelerator where they give you $150,000 or whatever. So there's lots of kind of opportunities for builders that we're able to kind of bring into one program. So it's, I think you think about it like a marketplace in that sense. I think the other things to maybe look at are, there's just over the past months we've had thousands and thousands of projects. So if we wanted to look at, I don't know, for example, let's filter by Near. So we can see tons of projects in V5 on Near. This needs to refresh. But also, for going back, obviously I'm just looking at V5, that's why. So if we look at programs in the past, we have tons of different projects, and you can, for example, for any one of these, like a launch looks like this, right? So it's like you have a place to try the product, even instructions for how to try it, and of course, like a good demo video. Yeah, that's kind of like back or build the platform. There's an entirely different side of it that I can show later, which would be the partner view. So it's like if builders are navigating the program and obviously, making progress, submitting their projects, then we have this huge network of partners, which aren't just like static sources of resources and grants. They are like humans, right? DevRel people, also awesome builders in their own right. And they're, of course, like working within the program to support builders, help them get unstuck, help them find inspiration, things like that.
I don't know if I might have missed it when you said it early on. So, as a project applying, what am I, if it's a kind of get out of it what I give into it kind of setup, is there something though I have to, whether it's equity, tokens, is there some part of that?
No, so it's totally free for builders entirely. We are able to provide the program via our partners, right? So that's kind of our business model, and we wanted to just create the most builder friendly program that we could possibly create. And so, we don't take equity, we don't charge anything. Again, it's on your own time, it's async. We have people from all around the world. It's really like the simple way to think about it is just that you're already building. All we need you to do is tell us what you're building and what you're building it on, and we can unlock opportunities for you. And so like that is kind of what we want to be true, and then everything else that we layer on top of that is kind of icing on that cake.
I wonder how the sort of builder partnership connection comes about, because say you're like building something, sort of step one or step two is what chain am I building on, right?
Yeah.
So you decide whether you're gonna build like EVM or near or something. It's a bit easier to swap from like Arbitrum to Polygon for say, but if you're like EVM to like a WASM environment is very different. So how would you go from like one partner to another, or do you sort of say I'm sticking with this chain from the start and this is the chain I'm building on?
Yeah.
Because I imagine with something like an Oracle, you could sort of swap that in and out quite easily, but like a layer one that's quite fixed from the start, I feel like. Or do people swap at the end of the program?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way that I would think about that is that I think more so than a typical hackathon, we map to the sort of like builder process that happens in the wild. So there are certain infrastructure choices that you make infrequently. There are certain infrastructure choices you make more frequently, right? So I think like a foundational, especially in crypto, like an ecosystem decision, I'm building, an EVM kind of product, is not a decision you are making probably even like, multiple times a year, or maybe make it once, right? And then it's like, that's it. But then there's obviously layers in the app stack where it's much more easier to switch people out. So it's like there's layers in that stack that will work with any chain. So it's like you can swap those out, right? Those are more composable. So and we work with it's not like we just work with Near and Base and Optimism, and although we do work with all those kind of partners, but we also work with lots of different partners, in all layers of the stack, as well as like Google Cloud is a partner, right? It's like there's lots of tools that you need as a builder if you're building in crypto or elsewhere that aren't even crypto specific. And so our goal is really to actually just have like a full diversity of those partners, which is an opportunity that we can kind of tackle differently than a hackathon, because again, like a hackathon is a one-off thing. There's a huge upfront cost to doing it. There's a huge upfront of just getting all those partners into one place, because ours is a system, an engine that's always running. So we are constantly adding more partners, and we're constantly working on how do we help kind of these. What we want to do is help like high relevancy connections form between partners and builders at the right time. And so, in the case of like a foundational ecosystem, yeah, it might be that getting builders to switch is like a long-term thing, and it takes months. And so, it's like if you see people that are building something that you think is, let's say, I'll give you an example that's real. It's like if you're Near, right? There's actually people building in Backdrop that are building something in AI. Maybe they're not even building in crypto yet.
Right.
And it's not like they're deciding between like Near and Optimism or something. It's like they haven't even fully sort of onboarded to building on top of a more decentralized AI infrastructure stack, but down the line in 6 months from now, we hope that they will. We hope they'll build on Near AI, right? So that's like this process that, because this thing is running all the time, and because we have builders that are persistent over programs, it just totally operates differently. But I think it maps to like how it kind of operates in the wild.
For sure. Can you talk a little bit about so like as a O and I both have projects on the side as well. How do you kind of, I guess, encourage projects who are maybe not full time to come in and leverage services like this? Because I can imagine it's nice that it's async, but I feel like it's easy to possibly just fall off because of just time. You don't have all the time. There's only so much. So do you have mechanisms that you guys have found that start to help support some of that?
Yeah, it's I've actually just wrote a whole like article on this, published it 2 days ago. But we are fighting in like kind of inaction, in at like at the high level, right? And I think it is such a complicated, emotional, like human problem. I think, especially for people that are, especially if you're building a side project, right? It's like,
For sure.
and I think one of the things that's really magical about not necessarily just programs in general, but these kind of, we're somewhere between a community, like a hackathon, an accelerator, and all of those have different ways, I think, of encouraging people to just continue to make progress. And I think there is, like, I fundamentally believe that most builders, and it doesn't matter how experienced you are, could use a bit more of a forcing function to like build and ship within containers and constraints. Like, and I think for us, what we offer is a very, very, very simple container, which is like every month we have all these things for you. We have all the opportunities. All you need to do is tell us what you built, and that would take you an hour or less. If you do
Right.
nothing else, like you're going to get value from this. Everything else you want, like we have, is again there for you if you want to put more time in. But I wouldn't even say it's like if you only do that, simple thing, you're going to get a fraction of the value. Like that's a good amount of it. So, and I think for a lot of people, just knowing that is a great, just like forcing function to do it. And then of course we have like lots of ways that we like follow up with people at the right time, and try to make sure that we are surfacing opportunities for them that are so like, we know that you're building on Near. We know that Near is kind of running certain kinds of campaigns right now. We know that if you were to just tell us what you built on Near over the last month, we can actually connect you to their team and unlock some opportunities for you. Maybe there's a grant for you, like whatever. So we'll tell you that, and that's a
Yeah.
good motivation for you to do it. So there is a lot of complexity to the system under the hood, but I think like at a high level, it is just the structure of the program that is the biggest value there.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Owen, if you have a question.
I did have a question, but I totally forgot it. So if you've got more burning questions,
Yeah. I want to dig on the hood a little bit. So this is really intriguing. I've been through multiple accelerators through my life with different projects. I've been through incubators. I've done the whole gamut of different things. And what I find really interesting about what you guys are doing is, one, the asynchronous part of it. Right? I think that's really interesting, and where I have a little bit more autonomy. But I'm curious, from you guys as being a product yourself, how are you actually managing some of this? Are you starting to automate these processes, or is this really like a manual process where there's a lot of hand holding that goes through this?
It's a bit of both. I mean, we're a team of 5.
Hmm.
We have 2,500 builders in the current program and 50 partners. So, you can kind of do the math on how much we could
Sure.
possibly do
Right.
manually
Yeah.
versus with a product. We at this point we like leverage AI a lot, I will say as well. Like I think there's a lot of things that are maybe were harder in the past to do, that
Yeah.
now are becoming information problems that are becoming easier. So even, for example, like as you can imagine, we we accept a high percentage of people that apply. So that's no secret, right? For us, like selection is on the other end of the program. So we want to select like the best projects and help them get opportunities, help them get funding and things like that. But we still want to select for people that are joining for the right reasons, and have something that they are clearly motivated to build and are going to be good actors and things like that. And so we can't. We get thousands and thousands of applications. Like there's just no way we can look through all of them. So we automate that, right? We automate some quality score, and we check the edges, and we also we get very good data, for example, on let's say you create your project, you tell us what your side project is. For example, you tell us what your stack is. So you're using Near plus Google Cloud plus, OpenAI, I don't know, whatever you're using. And based on that and like the opportunities that we know are flowing in the system, like we'll of course send you like sort of targeted emails and reminders and things like that. So it's like, hey, reminder that OpenAI is running a campaign right now, like, or they're running an event next week or something. So there's a lot of that stuff is automated at this point. There is a bunch of stuff that's not automated. So I would say it is kind of always like at the edges. So we spend a lot of time literally looking through all the projects that are in our kind of universe and all the partners that we have and where we can create like a magical connection where a builder's like, shit, I'm just really stuck on this thing. And we're like, did you know that there's a product that solves that problem and there's a team here that's pumped to help you? And so there's always going to be that kind of manual work that we then try to, as we figure out how to do it well, we then try to automate it.
Yeah, the matchmaking piece is really interesting to me because I feel like that is something that like we at DevHub as DevRels sometimes struggle with a little bit too, of like, you can know the ecosystem pretty well and you try to, not just try to re-engineer every single problem, right? You say, hey, so-and-so already solved this. Why don't you talk to them? So, and try to make those matches. But that's hard and it's time consuming. And we don't always know that list of stuff. So it sounds like that the way that you guys are almost like you're doing like a two-sided curation, it sounds like to me, like where it's like we're curating these resources, we're creating these projects, and then hopefully over time we can almost automate those matchmaking as well.
Yeah. I mean, we love DevRels. I think that's kind of why we built this whole thing, right, in a lot of ways. Like, I think the one way to think about what we're doing is that for companies that have like a bottoms up sort of growth, and you're dealing with like the long tail, basically. If you could just multiply your DevRel team by 100, like you'd kill it, right? Because you'd be able to look through every project, you'd kind of be able to help them out, you'd be pointed in the right direction. But it just doesn't work out. It's just not like you can't afford it. Yeah. It's just there's too many projects. It's too time intensive. And so what we want to do, like the people that use our product from the partner side are DevRels, and we want to just give them superpowers, basically. So we want to understand what they do well. So, and that's what we literally like when we talk to partners. It's like, okay, if you and I are looking at a project together, what are the criteria? What are the questions that we can ask to both know if it's a good fit for your ecosystem, and also like where we might want to plug it in? What is like how do we communicate with that person? What's the pitch that we give them for why now is a good time? And then we try to take that and we try to like kind of do it in a way that we can actually scale that sort of human effort into more people. So I think it really, and yeah, we're just like big believers that there is a huge opportunity to do that more in the future, especially as the just amount of builders explodes. Like I think that it's just getting so much easier to build stuff in general. So this problem of like, as a DevRel has of just, I need to actually try to deliver support to this big and kind of amorphous, group of builders is just only going to get harder. So that's kind of like what motivates us, is to try to take that value that we know exists and just make it better.
Yeah, I see and feel that on the day-to-day. Like I want to try and help as many people and as many projects as possible. But sometimes you just have to say no because you just don't have the time and it's so hard to say no. And I was actually talking to a project today that we're looking for other projects in the ecosystem to integrate with. So I might actually pass them your way.
Please. Yeah, I would love to help.
Yeah, I'm interested whether, because projects are building, projects in these sort of month-long cohorts, right? I wonder, like, how often and do people like return? So people ever doing like 5 straight months in a row returning, or is that something you don't really offer?
No, we do. Yeah, we do. Maybe I can even show you. I'll show a funny example, or not a funny example, but a cool example.
I want to know what's the longest streak.
Well, I can tell you the longest streak is we've had a bunch of builders that have been with us from day one. So the longest, possible streak, I guess. But I'll show you. So I think what I find personally the coolest is not just builders that come back, but because we do see, like, I think about 50% of people will come back from one program to the next, which is of course like pretty high, but let me share my screen. All right, here we go. So yeah, I'm gonna see if this works. Here we go. Yeah, so I'm gonna pick on David here. David is a on-chain, game builder, and so you can see he has like a bunch of, these are like the different cohorts, right? So starting, actually, it's not that he was part of build V1, it's just that we actually didn't have the product built. We were doing it all in Airtable at that point, so it doesn't exist here because it doesn't exist anywhere. But he's been with us from the very first program, and you can see that like when you look at it, it looks like, okay, he made this project Word Duel in V2, and then this Wild Road, and then he also made Hold'em in V3, and then he made
Just
Hold'em
doing
in
two
V4.
at once.
Yeah, so actually it's a bit confusing. These are the same projects, multiple programs, right? So this is the 5th version, the one that we're actively running right now, 4th version. So this is the same project, and it's a bit, a UI issue that we need to fix. But the point is that he has the projects in every single program, and sometimes like if we look at V4, it looks like he has 2 projects, right? Hold'em and this Words 3. But what's actually happening here, what I think is really cool, is he's basically evolving the same idea. He's sort of like, micro pivots, right? So he's making what started with Word Duel is now this Word 3 game, which actually now has some real traction. He got a grant, he is now kind of like, really going, off to the races with Words 3. So that's what to me is the coolest. Like, not only do we love people to come back and we see a lot of people do it, but I think the structure of the program and this kind of periodic nature of it works really well to just like continue iterating, change it, like make it a little bit better. And I think the people that we do have coming back, it's amazing to see how every time, every kind of batch, and because we get this demo video at the end, so you have this very cool way to just actually see the evolution kind of month on month. And that's why. So like in some ways, David's only been building one thing from the very first program. It just has different names, different formats, different kind of game, but it's all been like the same kind of purpose.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really, what again, it was resonating with me again is that you guys are really giving a lot of opportunities without really confining people to very specific like boxes. Like, you have to do this, you have to fit into this scope. Is it something, and I got, you guys are still new and still iterating yourselves, but is it something where like early on you saw this was the right path versus other experiences? Like, what drove you to start to make decisions around being this type of model?
Yeah, it has been. I wish I could say that we were just geniuses. We knew everything.
Sure, of course.
That's just not true. Like, I think we knew some things when we started. What we started with was this insight that a lot of the value of any kind of program like this is literally just the structure of the program itself. And that was the kind of insight that we needed to be like, I think you can make this kind of thing really big in a way that would get better as it gets bigger, which is for me, the key difference between what we have and like a traditional accelerator. So if you take Y Combinator and you add 100,000 projects to it, like, it will get worse because you can't deliver the same sort of like bespoke like advice or mentorship to every single project. Whereas what we have, actually, it operates the reverse direction. So the more builders we have, the more partners we can get, the more partners we can get, the more builders we can get, the more that we can match the two, the better we can provide value to both sides. So that was the insight that we did have at the beginning. It was always our intention to like build it in a way that doesn't rely on some of these values that don't scale. But there's other things, like we always assumed that, or at least in the beginning, we assumed that people would think of this like a hackathon. They would join, then they would leave. And we just saw like 50 or 60% of people coming back to the next program building the same project. And we were like, oh shit, like, okay, this is obvious insight. They want to keep making progress on the same thing. And it's better for us, also better for partners. Like, everyone wants quality projects to be built. Like, nobody really cares. I think that like in hackathons that you have this weird thing where it is, because there's like fixed prize pools. And so you're going to give that prize away regardless, right? You're going to give that $5,000 to the best project. And so what you don't want someone to bring in a project they worked on for the last 6 months. And obviously that's going to be the best project. So you have to prevent that by basically enforcing that on day one of the program, it's the first line of code, right? Which is because that's a different game that you're playing. For us, all of like the grants and funding and everything that we give is always discretionary. So it's like, we'll give it to, if it's new, old, whatever, as long as it's cool enough and we want to keep funding it to keep going, like we'll give it money. And so the amount of money that we give out is variable. And so those little changes, I think, also change like how we can structure the game, so to speak. So, we love people coming back, but that was not an insight we had at the beginning. That was just like, we noticed it was very clear in the data and we just had to make that happen. And the other one is that maybe also seems obvious now, is like the biggest reason that we haven't been able to provide value to builders is timing. Like we have people that message us all the time we're like, oh, I have this thing I really want to build right now. And like, can I join? And we're like, no, we don't have a program right now. We have one in March. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to do it. So I think that was the other obvious insight to us, that because we are so connected to the actual building process, like we are in the infrastructure layer in a lot of ways, like nobody waits for those kinds of things. If you're a Y Combinator, again, you can take a project at any point because you're offering this kind of like loose go-to-market, support, and anyone can always benefit from that. For us, like we need to be in that process of building right when it happens. And so that was another insight that we got from builders, that like we're just losing a lot of value because we have this like on and off kind of thing. And so that we got that insight pretty early, and it just took us probably like 4 months to be able to actually automate enough stuff to be able to run this thing all the time, because it's operation if it's a beast, like as you can probably imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like the logistics of it probably become a little bit more complicated, but I could really see that and appreciate that, because I think again, I think anyone who does any kind of like selling of something is not, not just financially, but just like, hey, I want you to come check this out. As soon as you have to say, hey, no, you got to wait a couple months before you can come join this or come do this, like forget it. Like, and even if I'm super excited about it, like I just know myself, like I'm just gonna get distracted. So I love that piece of it. One thing, and I don't want to take up too. I know you're super busy, but I would love to just get your opinion on the concept, though, of like mentorship. And so, this is something where I think a lot of incubators and accelerators, they try to tout themselves as being able to have great mentorship, but I think most people who've been through them will recognize that that's really a rare case where you actually find a mentor that actually is meaningful to you and that is actually able to help your project. How do you guys view like mentors, and what do you feel your role is, both maybe now and then in the future, of actually doing that kind of matchmaking as well, not just services?
Yeah, I have a definitely a strong view on this one. Let's see how simple I can make it, which is that, so one piece of evidence would be, if you ask people that go through Y Combinator what the value they got, the biggest answer that you'll get is the forcing function to like push hard, for that time. And it's not to say that Y Combinator isn't valuable. It's of course incredibly valuable. Like look at the companies that have come out of it, right? But it's just interesting that like the sort of mentorship that you get is almost like it's the reason that people say they want to join, but then the actual value that they get is something else. I mean, and so it's not just like, and so that was to us like one insight that, okay, you can deliver that value in a slightly different way, that again, it just has different sort of scaling characteristics. And I think for us, like it's almost like someone said that like what we're trying to build is like a decentralized version of YC, and it's maybe not like super precise, or it sounds like we're trying to like tokenize the whole thing or something, but it's more so that we don't assume that we are the experts or mentors. I love mentoring projects, and actually one like trap that I fall into is that I would love to spend all my time mentoring projects. Not to say that I'm an expert, like I don't know what I'm doing either, but it's just really fun. It's really fun to support builders and be in the room with them and talk to them. And I do it with some amount of my time because it just gives me a lot of energy. It makes me motivated to like do what we're trying to do. But ultimately the way that we think about it is that we, Backdrop, are not going to provide that support to people via the program, like now or probably in the future. So what we do is we try to bring the experts in various ways into the program. And again, because we have this ability to scale the program, our relationship with Near, for example, is way different than it would be than if New was working with Y Combinator again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we want to get to the point where we have 10 or 100,000 builders in this thing. And that means that we will work, with their DevRel team in a very different way than you would if you were just looking at like one project, right? And so we really believe that there's so much opportunity in the world of tech that is like from these infrastructure companies where you have people that have the resources, you have incredibly knowledgeable people on their team who are builders themselves. These companies are like really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in tech more like these days. And we think that like there is just not enough structure around that, like helping that support flow. So what we want to do is bring that mentorship, bring that support into the program. And then our job is not to provide it, but to facilitate it. So we want to, again, help those connections happen. So, it changes our job a little bit. Of course, over time, we become much more. I have lots of opinions on demo videos, by the way. Like I've watched thousands of demo videos over the last 6 months. Like, so at this point, I feel confident. I could for sure advise and mentor people on how to create a demo video that doesn't suck, but it's not like our primary value as a company.
Right. For sure. Yeah, I mean that's also like a human scaling issue too, right? I just like there's no way, especially bringing in hundreds of new projects all the time. How are you going to actually support all that?
Yeah.
Do you have a bank of resources that people can access to sort of combat that scaling issue?
Yeah, we do. So again, in some, I'm sounding like a broken record in a way, but a lot of value comes through our partners, right? So like in requests for projects, like everyone has projects that they're pumped about seeing right now, and our partners have like such unique vantage points on the like ecosystem of tech in general. So we of course collect those per project or per partner, and then we have a product that kind of aggregates those things to help people discover them. So it's like as a builder, you can see what all of our partners are excited about building. So we also have, of course, tons of other resources as well, and we have lots more planned. I think there's some like, if you look at mentorship specifically, I think it's a hard one. So that's like a network kind of a problem where you would need to find someone with the right motivation and experience or whatever to mentor your project directly, and it needs to be like a double opt-in kind of a thing. So there, over time we can solve some of those problems, but for now what we do is we definitely collect a lot of resources from partners, and we help kind of builders find and leverage those.
No, it's exciting. Any last thing that so if I'm a builder, I want to get interested, start at the website?
Yeah, I think that's, if you're a builder, if you're building something, especially in crypto and AI, I can say with reasonable confidence that we can help you out at this point, and not take much of your time. Just head to the website. It takes 5 minutes to apply. We'll get back to you in 48 hours, and we'll plug you in directly. So it really is designed to be pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and that's pretty much it.
Might apply myself in a minute.
I hope you do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really feel like I should put my project up there as well. So this is really great. Let's as we let you go. Next, 6 months to a year, do you guys see yourselves on the same path, continuing just to get the word out, expand there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is. I think this thing gets better as it gets bigger. And our goal in many ways is just to make it bigger, deliver more value to builders. And that is, at every step of the way, as we make it bigger, we have to obviously fix new problems, and we're working on those now. So that is the, goal for the next 6 months for sure.
Awesome. Well, Joy, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. I'd love to have you back, maybe in like 6 months, to talk about some success stories and things like that, because this is, I think, a really important, concept and product for builders that is probably not well represented right now. So I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Would love to talk about it. And that's a good plug, by the way. We have on our blog, you can see success stories from the past 6 months and projects, growing like crazy, raising millions of dollars. Like it's I think that's a good way to, if you want to be convinced that you should come build with us, like I think go look at what other people have done.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we will talk soon. Appreciate
sounds
it.
Good.
Nice showing.
See you later. Yeah.
Bye.
Cool.
Good stuff, Owen. What were your first thoughts there?
I think it's interesting. I think there's quite a lot of similarities to what Horizon was doing before, with like
Mhm.
reasonably large cohorts and sort of put in as much time as you want, I suppose. But a little less like close support, but that's how they can really scale, I suppose. So I'll be interested to see like how big these cohorts end up getting. I think they say they had 2,500 at the minute.
Yeah, I think you're saying like
Projects.
the 2,500 projects have come through, and between partners and everything else. So yeah, I look, as someone who has been through a lot of these, I was saying to him before, is that like it's really hard sometimes to join an accelerator or an incubator because what happens is this like time commitment piece of it, right? So like you say like, all right, especially like if you have to give equity, then you're like, I have to absolutely maximize my time. But if I don't have to give up anything, even then, like that was the thing when Shardar went through Horizon, is like, how do we make sure that we are doing everything that we can to get out of this, because I'm making a commitment. Where with this asynchronous piece, a little bit, it feels like, yeah, that pressure is still there to do something, but it doesn't, uh, I guess maybe a little more guilt free. Maybe it's the right term for that. Like where you just like, if I have to miss something, you know, um, it's not the end of the world, per se, because
I
it's
think
a rolling thing.
I think it's a bit of a balance, to be honest. Like I feel like sometimes you need that guilt. Like if I don't deliver, then I'm gonna die. So I think it's a balance, but at least there's like the requirement that you have to do the demo and sort of show that you've got something out of it. Um, so you have that you like have to follow really, which can
Yeah,
be the guilt
for
piece in
sure,
it.
for sure. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to pivot a little bit today, and we have a couple different things. But first up, we have something new that we are going to do today. We have our first advertisement, and so we are going to do our first ad read. You will.
How
Nobody gets.
commercial are we becoming?
Oh, big time, big time.
We've
Here we
made
go.
it. What?
We have made we have. But we're big time. Here it is.
Whoa!
Here it is. Now we're not getting any money for this, so don't expect anything in your inbox. But
Yeah, I was
Race
hoping
of
a
Sloths.
paycheck.
No, I am not getting any kickbacks for this. But no, here we go. Here's my first attempt at an ad read. So here we go. Are you a developer looking to spice up your open source contributions? Well, listen up, because the Race of Sloths is about to change the game. We all know the open source drives innovation worldwide, thanks to dedicated individuals who volunteer their time to solve problems for people they've never met. But let's face it, sometimes it can get a little boring. That's where Raceless Loss comes in. They're introducing a friendly competition that's going to revolutionize the way you think about open source contributions. It's time to combine your pride, skills, and a dash of fun into one exciting package. Imagine a world where fixing bugs feels like a thrilling race, where each commit is a step closer to victory. That's the Race of Sloths, where even the slowest progress is celebrated. If you want to know more, follow them on X, Twitter, at race_of_sloths, or check out their website at race-of-sloths.com, or scan the QR code on the screen. Race of Sloths. I actually
Beautifully done.
thank you.
I
Thank
only
you.
cringed like 50%.
Yeah, it's fun, but I listen. In all seriousness, I think this is a really cool project. It is. I've seen it done in a little bit different versions of it, but not quite as nicely done. This is really an innovative way to encourage contribution, and it is not just focused on money, which I really like, because of the incentives become different, and it's with open source. Money shouldn't be the only thing. It's nice, people like it, but this is really about also too sometimes that recognition. So Raise the Sloth, check it out, and you can start contributing right away and get on that leaderboard. And this is something where each week we'll start actually showing the leaderboard and talking about that and making that part of DevHub Live.
Don't just get on the leaderboard. Get to
Just
the top of
yeah,
the leaderboard.
there you go. That's right. That's right. You can see yourselves growing up there. All right. Also, we actually have something else fun today. So we're going to play a little game. I did not have time to make theme music yet, so I wasn't sure if we could, do that. But we do have this fancy graphic of our newest game, plain English.
Oh,
So, uh, we'll get like like God Save the Queen or something like that to play in the background or whatever.
God save the what? They
Was it
don't
Queen King?
mention Lizzie. Rest in peace.
So this is a game. So it's a play on words. Obviously, Owen being British, so we're playing on that. But what we're doing here
Come
is
on, England.
here's what we're gonna do. We're going to put up a code snippet. We're gonna do a few. We're gonna do a various degrees of challenge, and all Owen has to do is actually explain it in plain English. So sometimes the code might be fairly readable, whatever else, but he needs to explain what it's doing in plain English. So let's
Okay.
all right, so let me bring up the first one here. And where are we here? Plain English number 1. So we're gonna start really easy for you. All right. Here's the first one. Oh, these are just as a heads up. This one, we'll save it's gonna be anything else, but right now these are all going to be in Rust, and they're all smart contract related.
Right. So this is a function. It's actually a view function. If you don't know what a view function is, it's to view. You don't have to pay any gas. It doesn't change the state of the contract. You just output something. So this one just goes into the contract and gets the message, not just a message, the clone of the message, because it's like a reference.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
this is
perfect.
using near SDK 4 or below.
Yep, this is an older piece of code. Yep, these are all older pieces of code. I did not write new pieces. This is all old examples.
Was that good enough for you?
That was perfect. Yeah, it's a simple way to get data from a contract. Nice and easy there. All right, let's do another one here. So let's. This is slightly harder, but not too much. Here we go. What's happening here in plain English?
So now we have a call function. Some people call it a change function. It's a call. It's a call. We call it a call. And you can tell that because it has mut. It's mutable. It has a mutable reference to itself. So you can change the state of the contract with this. So when you call this, you don't have to put any parameters in, as you can see, except for itself. And it's getting the deposit. So I would expect that above this, it has the payable attribute. I would hope so. Because you can attach near tokens to it.
Yes.
And then it also fetches the predecessor account ID. So who's calling this? Well, you have predecessor and you have signer. And signer is like the one who initially sends the transaction, but you can have like cross contract calls and what are those other things? Meta transactions. So this just gets the contract or the person who called this function from before, and then it will insert a new. I suppose this is into like a map or something, with account ID as the key and amount as the value.
Yeah, perfect. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Right.
All right. Now here we go. This is gonna get a little harder here. All right, and for the last one of the day, so we are going to do, if I can just find it. Here we go. Plain English number 3 of the day. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so we got a little bit more going on here. Can we explain in plain English?
Is this from like Ref Finance or something?
Yeah,
Seems
it's
something like
part of
that.
it, part of a DEX contract. Yep.
Right. So add liquidity. It's another call function, and you specify the pool ID and the amounts. So I suppose let's say we're on like Ref Finance, and you can like provide liquidity to the pool so people can swap tokens, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
suppose you're depositing two amounts, or it could be even more. I know like Ref Finance has a stable pool where you put in like four different tokens. I think it's like USDC, USDT, and the wrapped versions of them. So
Mm-hmm.
it will put in the amounts for each of them, I guess. Um, and then when we're actually calling the function, it's calling some internal function that can't be, well, maybe it can be accessed at. Well, it's calling some internal function that will, I guess, do some checks, assert contract running.
Yeah,
Not quite sure what.
it's checking the state first. Seeing where that's at. Yep.
Right.
And then you add the liquidity, and then what do you think it's doing after it's adding the liquidity?
Where are we looking?
So you have add liquidity on line 12, and then what are we doing from there?
Right. So yes, adding some internal deposit share. It's like calling some function, I suppose, or sender ID, pool ID, shares. Where's this shares coming from? Ah, I'm lost.
Sure. This is a tough one. So on line 12, it's creating the shares amount, and then on line 13, it's then writing to the internal state to determine, that user's amount of shares of the pool at that point.
What's a share?
So
Like percentage of the pool?
correct. So yeah, so this is not necessarily a contract term. This is actually more of a like DeFi setup. So yeah, so when you provide liquidity and you actually create a pool, you then have a percentage of that pool in order
Mm,
to gain rewards from. So it's doing that. So that was a little tricky one. Definitely complex.
yeah,
There is a
I need to scratch up on my DeFi knowledge.
yeah, there is something happening on line 14 that I think is important, especially with any kind of smart contract. Do you know what it's
Where's he gone? Joe's gone.
lost again?
Are you back?
Wrong
Oh,
camera now. I'm
you're on
back with the wrong
another
camera.
camera.
There we go, and we're here.
Oh.
All right, there we go. There we go. All right.
Line
I don't know what happened there.
14.
Yeah,
Assert
line 14.
storage
What's happened there?
usage. I suppose, is this like checking how much storage the contract has? And seeing if it's using as much previous storage. I suppose it's checking like how much more or less storage is being used than when the uh when the function was first called,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and whether, I suppose, Why would you use this? So is the user having to deposit any storage, or
Possibly. Just yeah,
just checking how
yep.
much is being stored?
Yep, it's also it's just making sure, right? There's no additional errors or anything else that maybe would come up by running out of storage and things like that. Yep, it's just kind of checking that. It's more of a check with me type of thing. Perfect, nailed it. Plain
I'm
English.
sweating.
There we go. All right, we'll have to. That's where we're at. No, I think look, these are tough. We have plenty more that we'll do, but I think this will be good for people to see what it's like actually building. This was a great episode. Things going on in the ecosystem. Do you have anything you want to touch on?
Well, Nightshade 2.0 deployed to testnet. That's pretty cool. I think I've not read into it fully, but to my knowledge, it's about like stateless validation. So validators aren't having to like track all shards, and that like you can have higher throughput on each validator. And all of this is allowing dynamic sharding as well, which, I mean, this is big. This is pretty big.
Opens the door for a lot of things. Yeah, for sure. I think that's, there's a couple good posts out there. Bowen wrote a nice post on Twitter just talking a little bit about some of the stuff. There's going to be, as it moves to mainnet, there'll definitely be some more information out there about some of the possibilities that really open up both short term and long term. It's going to allow more people to become validators. It's going to allow more people to earn rewards different ways. And if you think about a decentralized network, the huge vision is that you can start running basically a validator on everyone's device, right? You can have a validator on your phone. And if you think of the economics of all of that and the centralization of all of that, it becomes really an interesting thing when you can get that stateless stuff. And so definitely something to watch for.
Yeah, the limiter for me right now is not to run a validator. It's not like the hardware to do it. I need to beg enough people to stake with me. Maybe get a
Totally.
DevHub live validator going. But
Yeah.
you've got a validator running, right?
Correct.
With
Yep.
Ready
Layer 1. Yeah. Yep. So we started during our podcast, and that was definitely the challenge, right? Of getting people to actually put enough on there. We were lucky because we went through Stake Wars 2 or Stake Wars 3. I don't know which number it was. And we were in the top threshold to get some stake to at least get started and get on as a chunk validator. And then we've just grown through processes like liquid staking. Metapool has a lot of funds on ours through their programs and things like that. It's definitely hard, but the stateless validation really opens up a lot of different doors for people, and it lowers some of the requirements too for running a server, because right now it's not too expensive to run a server necessarily, but there are some pieces of it that if you're not comfortable running servers, it can be a little bit tricky, where I would think over time the stateless piece would become a little bit easier.
Hopefully we will see. Do you actually manage much of the validator yourself?
Yeah, I don't have to touch it often. You pretty much, the only time I touch it now is like during protocol updates. For the most part, it just runs. It was we ran through a few hiccups, so like if people remember, if you've been around, like when Neat came on, and so the inscriptions like that crushed people's servers, and so you run into some stuff where you have to like upgrade the hard disk and things like that. But for the most part now, I have a beefy enough system where it just kind of does its thing.
Where are you running it?
It's located somewhere in the EU. I think I want to say Sweden, Switzerland, somewhere. somewhere in the EU.
Or the UK. Are you going to be watching the Euros this Sunday?
I will actually. I will watch the Euros. I do enjoy soccer, so that will. Looking forward to that. Sorry, football.
There we go. We can end it now.
Okay. Yeah. If we'll end on that note a little bit here. If people have, again, if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. Make sure that you are doing all these things that keep in touch with us, because there's gonna be a lot more great stuff happening. I really appreciate our guest today, Joey from Backdrop. Definitely check them out. I think that's a good program if you're building here, and we're going to certainly have a lot more building resources coming up next week. Let's see, what we got going on next week. So we just had that. Next week's going to be a great one. So next week we have Alex from Aurora talking about the new Web3 wallet. If you haven't seen this new wallet setup, it's really pretty neat. He's going to do a demo for us and be able to show off how this all works. It's going to allow people to leverage MetaMask on Near without using Snap or anything else. It's actually a native implementation. So that's going to be pretty cool to see, and I think we'll have plenty of questions for that. We'll do a little bit more of plain English next week as well. And
I'm gonna get my studying in before.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we'll be able to have a theme song by then. And we have a lot of great stuff coming up this month and next, already on the calendar. So keep tuning in, keep sharing. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Check out the Bounty Booster if you're at a hackathon, especially if if you're at ECC in Brussels and things like that. Make sure you're checking all that stuff out. Cool. Well,
don't forget to check out the newsletter as well.
Yes.
Or did you already say that?
I think I said it, but don't worry about it. We'll double check it out, triple check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Yeah, cool. Appreciate it, Owen. Thanks again for co-hosting here with me. This has been another great episode.
See you next week.
All right. Bye, all.